Writer's block hits every writer. Some can deal with it in a matter of hours, some can overcome it in a matter of days, and others unfortunately never beat it. I don't personally believe in writer's block, but there have been times when I've been stuck in my books. This week, I'm going to talk about how I power through the hard times and a unique skill that I've cultivated that has helped me turn moments of writer's block into the best sources of my creativity. I'm Michael Laron, and this is the Writer's Journey podcast, where you get a window into the life of a working science fiction and fantasy author. I'm on a mission to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I share my progress and discover what inspires my books and how I write them. You can find the show notes for today's episode at michaellaron.com/podcast. This week, I'm taking you behind the scenes of my writing process. Hello and welcome to episode 24. For my behind the scenes episode this week, I wanted to spend some time talking about how I deal with writer's block. I mentioned that I don't believe in writer's block. I know that sounds a little smug, but here's my problem with the word writer's block. It's really just an excuse most of the time. It's so easy to say, I can't write because I have writer's block, and then days and months pass and you have nothing to show for it. Most authorities treat writer's block as a major struggle to be won. It's this huge battle that writers face on a regular basis, but I just refuse to believe all of that. I believe that we as writers have to do a better job of focusing on solutions, not excuses. And writer's block to me seems like a really convenient excuse. Let me explain. Now, I don't mean to diminish the struggle that people feel when they're stuck in their manuscript. All writers get stuck, and that's the truth. I've been stuck in my own books many times. However, I think mindset is really important, and it goes a long way here. Despite the fact that I'm stuck, I don't call it writer's block. Now, I'm going to get metaphysical for a minute, but stick with me, okay? I believe that your subconscious is the source of your creativity. It knows exactly what to write, how to write, and where. My subconscious, or muse, or creative voice, as Dean Wesley Smith calls it, is my guiding light. It will help me over any obstacle if I just listen to it. But most people can't and won't do that. Instead, they write from the logical part of their brains, which is actually not a very good idea because this part of the brain is also where that famous inner critic lives. Well, infamous inner critic. The writer often undermines what the subconscious originally gives them because he or she thinks that they ultimately know better and that they know what readers want. And when writers quit, it's usually because the inner critic has convinced them to give up. I personally believe that abolishing the inner critic is one of the most important things that a writer must do to be creative and to have a long-term career. When you do that, you'll actually be able to listen to your subconscious, and that's how you remain creative. And when you listen to your subconscious, it will actually tell you what it needs. It's not stuck because of writer's block. It's stuck because it needs something. I view it as my job to give it what it needs. Let me give you my best example of nurturing my creative voice. In my novel, Android Deception, I got into a section halfway through the book and I got stuck. I fought against it for a long time, dragging myself to my computer and trying to bang out words, but it just didn't work. Instead, I listened to myself and I let myself drift. My wife and I visited a local bakery that I'd never been to before, and that experience, turns out, was exactly what I needed. It was an amazing experience. There was just this most amazing creative decor, incredible ambiance, and just a lot of interesting people to watch. And while I was there, I remember asking myself, how would I write this into a novel? And then I made a connection. I connected that bakery to my novel. When I got home, it turns out that that scene that my wife and I had at the bakery gave me the inspiration that I needed. And I actually ended up writing a bakery into the next chapter of the book. That ended up being the most memorable chapter in the book, too. So, did I have writer's block? No. I gave my subconscious what it needed, which was a new experience. I leaned into the fact that I didn't know what to write next. In other words, I let myself drift. I let life happen around me, and I was rewarded as a result. I view writer's block as productive discomfort. Instead of fearing it, I embrace it. It's like when your car skids out of control. The natural inclination is to swerve the opposite direction, but that actually makes it worse. The way to regain control of your car is actually to lean into the direction that your car is swerving. For me, writing is no different. Now, I'll admit, some people might hear this and think, cool, I can procrastinate when I get stuck. I'm not saying that. Drifting and listening to your subconscious sometimes is a matter of having a strong will and motivation to return to your manuscript. Otherwise, you'll never finish. I don't let myself drift for very long. just long enough to let life seep into my novels. And if you live life to the fullest, keep your eyes open, and pay attention to your surroundings, that won't take very long. Anyway, I thought I'd share this secret with you as it's gotten me through a fair amount of pain points in my books. I talk more about this in my book, Be a Writing Machine, if you want to hear more about my writing process. Thanks for joining me this week. If you enjoyed the show, here are a couple ways to help a brother out. If you're listening to this on Anchor, favorite the show. If you're listening to this on a podcast app, do me a favor and write me a review and share it with your friends. You can, of course, visit my website and learn more about my work at michaellaron.com. If you have a question, send me a voice message on Anchor and you just might hear it on the show. Next week, I'll be giving an update on what I'm currently working on, and I'll be answering your questions. Until then, I leave you with a quote. Patience and perseverance have a magical effect before which difficulties disappear and obstacles vanish. John Quincy Adams.